You.
Tonight on ITV, Robert Redford and Barbara Streisand star in the bittersweet story of The Way We Were.
What is it?
What do you mean, what is it? I want us to be there. I want you to be there. Sure, I make waves. I mean, you have to, and I'll keep making them until you're every wonderful thing you should be and will be.
The Way We Were, 9:40 tonight on ITV.
Next tonight, the latest international news from ITN with Carol Barnes.
Was all my joy.
We did the right thing, didn't we?
For once, I think we did. Was my delight.
How much interest are we getting?
Currently, 11.5% gross a year, paid regularly every month. And this month, that's 2 nights at the Lakeside Inn.
National Savings Income Bonds give you a regular monthly income without touching your savings. And you can invest from £2,000.
What about next month?
Let's spend this month's first. And I have loved you oh so long, delighting in your
The Isle of Wight. Phone for information or get your guide from your newsagent.
He drinks Carling Black Label.
Give him a chance. He's only just started going out with girls.
The new Hoover Electron series saves even more energy. The Electron 1100 does a complete light wash in just 30 minutes. And because it's more efficient, it saves powder. It cuts down the creases, so it saves your energy by cutting down the ironing. And saves energy with spin speeds up to an unbeatable 1100. The new Electron series of energy-saving automatics from Hoover. Who better?
Test driving an Astra? Fine. What car's Car of the Year? 1980. Or an Escort? All these awards in 81. Make sure you also test drive the Renault 9. The latest specifications, the latest awards. Test drive this year's winner, the advanced Renault 9.
The leaf. The bunch. The cigar. The slim panettone. The 5 senoritas. The half Corona. The tube. The name? The House of Cigars. The choice is yours. Enjoy the pleasure that is pure Henri Wintermans.
A nasty cough calls for Vino's cough mixture. Soothing, comforting Vinos for all the family's coughs.
Capture those sporting moments on Super Avilyn videotape from TDK. The great name in tape cassettes.
On a Maltese holiday, you'll find the transport strangely familiar. The sea, quietly inviting. The food, a little fresher than you'd expect.
Oh, yeah.
The architecture, quite breathtaking. And if the local talent doesn't grab you, nothing will. But above all, in Malta, you're assured of a welcome so warm, you'll find it hard to leave.
You're watching London Weekend Television, your weekend ITV. Now we join ITN for this evening's international news, read by Carol Barnes.
Good evening. At least 6 people were killed and another 50 injured tonight in 2 terrorist bomb attacks in the south of France. First, 2 people died in a Marseille to Paris high-speed train when 2 bombs went off as it raced towards Lyon. 2 first-class coaches were badly damaged, but the train stayed on the rails. 15 minutes later, a suitcase bomb containing 6 pounds of explosive killed 4 people when it went off in the left luggage office at the main railway station in Marseille. So far, no one's claimed responsibility for either attack. This year, there have been several explosions around Marseille. Police have blamed both right-wing French terrorists and Lebanese extremists. Nigeria has reported calm this evening after the military coup which overthrew President Shagari's civilian government. Shagari is said to have been arrested during a visit to central Nigeria. In the capital, Lagos, a dusk-to-dawn curfew has been imposed, troops and tanks have been stationed at key positions, and political parties have been banned. There were reports of shooting early today, but an army brigadier said on Nigerian radio the takeover had been bloodless. About 20,000 Britons live in Nigeria, but the coup leaders say foreigners will be protected. A Nigerian government official who supports the coup arrived in London today.
95% of Nigerians will be jubilating now for this takeover. It's very, very rare, but then it is the truth.
Wouldn't they prefer to have a civilian government rather than a military one?
Of course they would prefer to have a civilian regime, administration, but not the type of administration that have been overthrown by the army.
What's been wrong with it?
Corrupt, inefficient, maladministration.
Shehu Shagari, a devout Muslim, became president 4 years ago. He was re-elected in August with a massive majority and was sworn in for another 4-year term. Shagari, who was in London 2 years ago, has been plagued with economic difficulties and allegations of corruption. Today's takeover is the 5th military coup in 17 years. The army last held power from 1966 to 79, a period which included the Civil War. Nigeria emerged from the conflict as Black Africa's richest nation, but today the country is £2 billion in debt. 90% of its foreign earnings come from oil, and it's been badly hit by the world glut. Stringent austerity measures have failed, and the economic crisis was partly responsible for the much criticised expulsion earlier this year of 2 million West African illegal workers. Some financial experts are now afraid that the coup could lead to an upset in the delicate world balance of supply and demand for oil.
The South African couple convicted of being Russian spies are to appeal against their sentences. Dieter Gerhardt, former head of the strategic Simonstown naval base, was jailed for life. His wife Ruth was sentenced to 10 years.
The 48-year-old former commander of the Simonstown Naval Dockyard arrived knowing he could face the death sentence for espionage activities that dated back 21 years. As he entered court, he was accompanied by his 41-year-old wife Ruth. She had acted as courier for her husband, ferrying documents to Soviet agents in Europe. The sentence, like the rest of the 47-day trial, was given behind closed doors. Later, in a brief statement, the Attorney General of the Cape made it clear that the court had totally rejected Gerhardt's defense that he'd been employed by South African counterintelligence. According to legal sources, Dieter Gerhardt escaped the death penalty because his espionage activities had not involved the loss of South African lives. Peter Sharp, ITN in South Africa.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson, a Democratic contender for the American presidency, has met the U.S. airman who's being held by the Syrians. Lieutenant Robert Goodman was shot down during air raids over Lebanon earlier this month. He said he was being treated well, but hoped to be home soon. The Syrians say he'll be freed if the Americans end all reconnaissance flights over Syrian-held areas of Lebanon. Now sport, and with news of the latest matches in the big Christmas soccer programme, our sports correspondent Jeremy Thompson.
Liverpool at the top of Division 1 seems as much a part of New Year as Auld Lang Syne these days, and almost as predictable. The man who scored the only goal at Nottingham Forest was Ian Rush, who brought his season's tally to 22. While Arthur Graham's header gave Manchester United a 1-0 win over Stoke, so setting the scene for the ultimate confrontation between the two pace-setters at Anfield on Monday. West Ham moved into third spot, beating injury-hit Spurs 4-1 and overtaking Southampton, who were held to a 2-2 draw by Arsenal. Charlie Nicholas, who hit a penalty in that match, has now scored 4 goals in 4 games since Terry Neal's departure. While England striker Paul Mariner was full of New Year resolution as he hit one of the season's fastest goals. It came after just 140 seconds from an O'Callaghan free kick and was enough to give Ipswich a 1-0 win over Notts County. Sheffield Wednesday were finally prized off the top of Division 2. They drew 1-1 at Carlisle, and that let Chelsea in ahead of them for the first time this season. Although Kerry Dixon missed his third penalty in 4 days, a late goal by Dave Speedy gave Chelsea a 1-0 victory against Brighton and a narrow lead on goal difference. Close behind them, Manchester City drew, Newcastle and Grimsby both won, and Huddersfield ruined Charlton's unbeaten home run of 14 games with a 2-1 victory. A corner from Pugh headed in by Harvey gave Huddersfield a 1-goal first-half lead. Charlton had wasted plenty of chances, though, until a hopeful boot out of defence found Derek Hales at his bustling best to provide the equaliser. The late breakaway by Huddersfield caught Charlton by surprise, and Russell lofted in the winner. Finally, a disappointing end to the year for the world's darts champion Keith Deller. He lost in the first round of his title defence to the American Nicky Verashkal.
Finally, as the old year comes to a close, crowds of revellers are gathering in London's Trafalgar Square for the traditional New Year's celebrations. The crowds are good-humoured and undismayed by the security measures taken to avoid last year's tragedy. And as they see the old year out, from all of us here, it's good night and Happy New Year.
Now the weather forecast for the London weekend television area. The dry, mainly cloudy weather will continue tonight and it will be mild. The minimum temperature about 7 degrees centigrade, 45 Fahrenheit. The southwesterly wind will be fresh to strong and may reach gale force in exposed places. Tomorrow will be a mainly cloudy day, and after a dry start, occasional light rain is likely during the late morning and afternoon. It will be windy with a strong southwesterly. Maximum temperature near 9 degrees centigrade, 48 Fahrenheit.
There's a great start to 1984 on ITV, with top entertainment on New Year's Day. At 6:40, Mary O'Hara and Friends, Georgie Fame and the fabulous Missouri Dancers, taking us through to 7:15 and Play Your Cards Right.
Nice to see you. Never went down very well, did it?
At 7:45, those partners in crime hunt a missing lady.
Did she leave an address?
No, she didn't.
But you told me that
I really cannot remember what I told you, Mr. Salvinson. Turning up as you did, throwing my house into an uproar.
I don't like it. I like it. Less and less.
At 9, Steve McQueen is hired gun Tom Horn.
See that the rustling gets stopped. $200 for every rustler.
At 10:50, Sheena Easton.
I'm the entertainer. I've come to do my show.
A great lineup to start the new year on ITV.